Parents of Reddit, what is the secret about you that you will never tell your child? Probably all the ways I like to take their dad's big dig. I'm 37 years old and still convince myself that my mother only had 6 once to have me. And that was the end of her career. Wait till you walk in on them in their late 50s or early 60s going at it. That my daughter was conceived in the backseat of my 2001 Grand Am to Metallica after a Halloween party. Hey, that ain't a bad car to be conceived in. That when my wife was pregnant with our third, she initially wanted to give her up for adoption and I refused. Even though we're divorced now. Still never going to tell my child that. That would have the potential to cause more damage to the kid than the mom. So I'm glad you keep it to yourself. Yeah, I've never told a single person. So unless my ex says something, which I don't believe she ever would, my kid will never know. That I never wanted kids or to be married. I planned on dying before I turned 18. Had a kid at 17. Have since had 3 more and have been married to the greatest man on this planet since 2006. I wouldn't publicize it, but I wouldn't rule it out. If you ever see your kid struggling with similar issues, it could be really inspiring to know that you and your husband are as happy and have as amazing of a family as you do, despite it not always being the plan. That I walked out of an abortion clinic still pregnant after filling out the paperwork and having the ultrasound. I just couldn't do it. We now have 3 kids and I've never regretted keeping him. I wish I had done the same. How many different ways and times I have ducked their mom. Not to mention how many times I ducked their mom with them in the room when they were babies. Oh god. We do have favorites. I ducking knew it. Good try, kid. No mobile phone for a week. No. Not my phone. That his mother has mentioned signing away her rights to me several times over the 10 years he's been here. He loves her so much and it would absolutely crush him. I genuinely wonder how their relationship is going to be as he gets older. He's not stupid. He sees things. I just have a feeling that they're gonna drift further apart because she could and should be a better parent. He's lucky to have you as a dad. You sound like you really care about him. Well, I know I'm a mistake since parents had me when they were in high school. They never told me that I am, but I know I'm one since then. They had 2 more kids, which are my siblings, and they are still happily married, so I guess it's alright. Unplanned. Not a mistake, my man. The positions we did to have fathered him. Look, son. We did reverse cowgirl and that's how you were born. My daughter was conceived during the commercial break of Coronation Street. After my boss challenged me to have quickie 6 during the commercial break of Coronation Street. Oh word, well fancy that. That I don't have any kids. I think a lot of people aren't getting what this really is supposed to mean. That their mother admitted to trapping me by becoming pregnant so someone would have supported her because she didn't want to work, ever. Yes, I used birth control. Guess I should have bleached the contents of the condom. Edit. Clarity on the bleaching for some people. Men. After 6. Jump right out of bed. And turn your condom inside out and rinse its contents down the sink. If she doesn't like you doing that, tough sheet for her. How many guys I've hooked up with, before my wife. I'm their dad. And I might eventually mention that I'm bi. But I don't think they need to know how many big dicks I've sucked. I don't think any child wants to know how many big dicks have been sucked by their mom or their dad. That nearly every moment of regret that I have in my life revolves around either my wife or my daughter. Love them dearly. But there are so many things I did not want to give up but did because of them. Not much. Really. Kid will get my journals after I pass. If he cares. He can read about his dad's struggles. He might not. He might find it too painful to learn about my depression and other internal issues. They do spill onto the poor kid. Despite my efforts to the contrary. I hope he can read a story of increasing peace over time. Not so far. Reason we got divorced when she was a baby. We're both on good terms and happy, and there would be no reason for our daughter to know a specific reason. That their uncle is a rapist that their grandparents covered for. Eater, he raped a relative. Not me. Sorry for the confusion. Please tell me he's not the father. Just how depressed I actually am. That I nearly aborted her. She was conceived by grape, and when I found out I really considered abortion. But I couldn't go through with it. I was in the exact same position, and on the day I walked out, I lost the baby naturally 2 weeks later. I had an abortion. My husband got into drugs and ran off when my son was 11 months old. I was a waitress with little education. A few days later I found out I was pregnant. I knew I could support my child alone but couldn't manage a pregnancy and enter kids. I was terrified of becoming a welfare case. I borrowed money from my parents and had an abortion. Over the next year husband got straightened out and grew up. We reunited and built careers along with a strong, happy, healthy family. Son is 40 now and doesn't need that information. That because of the mile left behind our entire extended family. It took me becoming a parent and having this ferocious need to protect them and do right by them to alienate every single soul I have ever known. I was brought up in a casually abusive family. Not getting cigarettes put out on my arm. But constant. Daily small abuses that accumulated to make me a complete human doormat. I didn't feel a spark of fight until the first couple times jabs were made towards my first daughter. Eventually. After trying everything, including direct confrontations that caused me absolute terror to do, I broke away. My daughters will lead a very small life with family. And times like this with holidays looming, it is hard. It is hard not to drive back and visit. Knowing there are people who I have relation with in the world who would welcome us back. But I know the cost and I won't make abuse a normal way of life for my girls. So we stay alone. And I wish I had more of a community to offer them than just myself. But I strive for quality over quantity for them now. As far as they know now though, they have no idea we had this whole family that is now far behind us. Someday I'll tell them the truth. But for now I think it's better that they don't long for the idealized version of these people. Good for you. That can't be easy, but it sounds like you have a good head on your shoulders. God bless you and have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your daughters. I was the one that farted in the car. All the manipulative shit their mum used to do to try to make me stay. They don't need to know the lows she went to. Nice try, son. Not telling you where I hide the PS4 though. Do your homework. That they were conceived due to dad sending mom a big dick pic captioned "come here" as an early date present to mom. My daughter's real dad. Because even I don't know who's the real dad. I will always try to be truthful. I don't know if there is anything I wouldn't tell them, at least once they are old enough. Rather than keeping a secret that I'm ashamed of, I'd be honest and try and make it a learning experience, I guess. That I was 2 days away from getting the paycheck that would have been an abortion had his father not changed my mind. Ended up a single mom. Slightly resentful. But still fulfilling my parental duties. He will be 18 soon. And it's in my 5-year plan to move away now that I'm no longer obligated to his fatherly visitation. He is more than welcome to come with me. But I'm also more than ready to start living more for myself. That I have a favorite. Just curious. Do you have more than 2 kids? My child is adopted. And actually a dog. Don't tell him that. The poverty and crappy parental life decisions I grew up with. I want them to have a chance of a relationship with at least my mum. If not my dad. That I had to give up my career, and a huge bonus, for them. I was in the Navy in the nuclear field. I had an anxiety attack about giving my oldest, and at that time only, child up so I could go to training. I was damn good at my job. And on track for a $90,000 bonus if I had stayed. I left for him and had another son shortly after. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. But I often wonder where I'd be if I had stayed. My mom told me she was in the triple digits of sexual partners. I tried killing myself when he was 1. Sleeping in the room beside the bathroom. The ex might tell him though. Daddy likes hookers. That I aborted her unborn sibling because I'm planning to divorce her father. I did that 39 years ago. I don't regret it. Make your decisions based on your reality and not wishful thinking. Not me. But my sister will never tell her 30-plus-year-old children she was married once before she married their dad. Admittedly, the guy was a loser. But I think she can come out with it now. My dad probably saw from downstairs my internet searches. When I heard his footsteps I knew. But he's never told me. I overheard my mom on the phone once and learned that I am an oops baby. After my older sister was born, their second kid, my mom and dad decided to not have any more kids. Had some celebratory fun time and 9 months later, bam. You were conceived while I was engaged to a woman who wasn't your mom, which created a massive family rift, and I'm sorry I walked out when you were 8. I was a manic pose. I've been arrested. Not a proud moment as a mother. It was a DUI 6 or 7 years ago. I don't drink anymore. I was also not planning on telling them that I smoked cigarettes in the past. My husband went and blabbed that one. We conceived one of my children during a BDSM scene when I was a solid yellow. I'm confused by solid yellow. I don't plan on telling her she has a sister for a very long time, if ever. Right out of high school and straight into the military, I was married to my HS girlfriend. Yeah, I know. Very boot, and she got pregnant. We were married less than a year before we split and she took our child with her. I tried for years to make plans to come and see her. But between deployments and my ex being a downright itch, it didn't happen. When I was finally out of the service, I was in a terrible place mentally. It took me almost a decade, with the help of my very loving and patient current wife, before I could even consider reaching out to my daughter, who is now 15. Unfortunately, she has autism and doesn't understand the situation. My ex has since remarried and had a couple more kids. The family is very helpful towards her and her stepfather is a good guy. I've decided to just remain out of the picture. I don't want to disrupt her life just to be selfish. That I had an abortion when I was 16. I was actually with their father way back then when it happened. We were absolutely not ready for children. But I worry that if my, now, 13-year-old daughter found out, she would be devastated. She's always wanted an older sibling. My mom recently confessed to me that she had 2 abortions. One when she was 19 and long before I was born. And another in between me and my brother. The first one I understood. She was young and scared. The second one messed with my head a bit. I'm not mad at my mom. I can't imagine having to make those decisions for myself, and I know she carried and still carries shame around because of it. I think that if your daughter ever finds herself in that place where she is faced with making that decision, or she asks, tell her that I'm bisexual. I am the child. My mom never wanted me or my sister to find out a certain secret about her. But I do know it because dad casually told me one afternoon, oh yeah, she miscarried before we had you too. Would have had a second older brother actually. And then he just ducked and walked off like he didn't just say that. Then he came back 2 minutes later whispering, is mom around right now? She's not even home. But I remember. I don't think she wanted me to tell you about what I said. Actually. Just pretend you don't know. My mom still hasn't told us and it sounds like she never will. I'm not going to ever bother her about it. Just let her think I don't know. Edit, added the last part. My child is named after a cartoon character. That I never wanted kids in the first place. But seeing my wife check out and completely ignore the kids she had to have makes me want to give 110% to parenting. That I spent the first couple weeks of his life involuntarily hospitalized due to a psychotic episode. Was extremely paranoid that someone was going to hurt my baby and didn't sleep for 2 weeks. I had no short-term memory and was terrified of my partner, who did nothing but help and support me. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to them. I am lucky he stood by me.